All right, everyone. Good evening. It is March 5th, 2024. Welcome to the monthly business session of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission here from City Hall. We appreciate anybody who's joining us in the chamber or online through our variety of media opportunities. I'll go ahead and begin, as we always do, by reading the civility pledge that's provided for us by the Georgia Municipal Association that we adopted. And that indicates that the way we govern ourselves is often as important as the positions we take. Our collective decisions will be better when differing views have had the opportunity to be fully vetted and considered. All people have the right to be treated with respect, courtesy, and openness. We value all input, and we commit to conduct ourselves at all times with civility and courtesy to each other. So thank you for being part of that, everyone. And I'm going to ask Clerk Spratland to begin with a roll call.
Davenport.
Here.
Link.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Fisher.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Culpepper.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. First item of business is approval of the minutes of meetings of Tuesday, February 6th, Tuesday, February 13th, Tuesday, February 20th, and non-voting meetings of Tuesday, February 13th, and Tuesday, February 20th. I'd entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Thornton, a second from Commissioner Myers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries and those minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, do we have any written communication this evening?
No, we have none.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we have 4 opportunities for public input tonight, and they are all roughly the same with one brief exception that I'll outline. We have an opportunity for public input on the consent agenda. Those are items 1 through 9 on the agenda. We have a second opportunity for public input on the single planning and zoning item we have concerning 585 Prince Avenue. That's item 10. We have a third public input opportunity on old and new business. Those are items 11 through 15. And at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, we have an opportunity for public input on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. Public input is generally provided in a 3-minute opportunity. I will let you know at exactly 3 minutes that we've appreciated your time here in City Hall and that we need to move on to the next speaker. During public input, if you would please refrain from any observation of the other speakers, whether positive, negative, or otherwise. We want to make sure we fully hear everyone. We want to make sure we get through all those who are here for public input. So I ask you to conduct yourself appropriately. The one deviation is that when it comes to planning and zoning items, there is an opportunity for somebody to sign up in advance for a 10-minute segment of time. And so I'll get to that when we get to our current planning and zoning items. Is there anyone who is here to speak, members of the public, to the consent agenda items, which once again are items 1 through 9? Is anyone here to speak to any of these items 1 through 9? When you step up to the podium, please identify yourself and your general place of residence, which could be just Clarke County. And if you would make sure you fill out a card, which is on the podium, of which there are additional ones in the hallway, and Attorney Drake will grab that from you. So good evening. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Hey, good evening. My name is Dustin Hafley-Chance. I am here to, I live at 304 Joanne Court in Athens. I'm here to speak on number 8 on the inclusive facilities. I think to start with, it's great that as Athens as a whole, we're looking at being more inclusive in our facilities. But there was some sentiment, I felt like, at the agenda planning session that Commissioner Houle might be the only one in the room raising their hand to make that more of a long-term plan of how we have inclusive facilities, particularly inclusive restrooms, at our facilities going forward for new construction and for remodels. And I want to say that that's not the case. I think that the community in Athens would all, or not all, but a large majority of us would appreciate that being a long-term consideration for this commission to ensure that our facilities, our public facilities going forward, are inclusive of all gender identities. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it. Anyone else here to speak to the consent agenda? Again, items 1 through 9. Good evening, sir.
My name is Benny Coleman. I live at 271 Rose Drive, Athens, Georgia. I disagree with item number 1 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Is anyone else here to speak to any item on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, is there a commissioner who would like to remove any item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Commissioner Link.
Just number 7, quick comment.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Any others? All right. I'll go ahead and call for a vote on items 1 through 9, accepting item 7. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved. Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Myers and a second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to our single item on our planning and zoning agenda, and that is number 10. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up for the 10-minute block on this item? All right, so there's nobody here for the 10-minute block, so any speakers to item 10 are restricted to the 3-minute opportunity that I outlined earlier. Is anybody here to speak to 585 Prince Avenue? All right, seeing none, this is in District 4, so I'll allow Commissioner Wright to place a motion on the floor.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve this rezone.
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Link. Commissioner Wright, any remarks relative to
Ready
this?
to vote?
Commissioner Link, any follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, this was my district for 8 years, and I'm really grateful to see this property preserved. It's a beautiful, beautiful home, and I'm grateful that the school district was able to find a buyer that's going to preserve it. I do hope moving forward that we'll see some kind of historic protections on this strip because, you know, if the property does change hands, there's not any of that. So I'm really grateful to the family, the owners, and I really look forward to welcoming them to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any further remarks from the body? All right, I believe there's an ordinance, given that this is a zoning item.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to special use approval of a single-family residence in the CO Commercial Office District for a parcel of land at 585 Prince Avenue comprising approximately 0.21 acres and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. We're looking forward to having a new resident there. All right, next order of business is public input on old and new business. So once again, these are items 11 through 15. Please note that staff requests that item 14 be held, so that ideally we'll see a vote in a future meeting. Any member of the public who would like to speak to 11 through 15, now is that time. So once again, just let us know who you are, the item you're speaking to, and you have your 3-minute opportunity.
Good evening. I'm Connie Stadiger. I'm the CEO of the Athens Housing Authority, and I was here just to thank you tonight for item number 13. This is funding that was approved in 2020 as part of our application for North Development, or North Downtown Development Phase 1. And to also report to you that we won our funding for Phase 2. We heard from that in February. It was an October 2023 application. So just wanted to, again, say we appreciate you guys and look forward to rocking on with Phase 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doninger. Appreciate that. Is anyone else here to speak to any of those old or new business items 11 through 15?
Yeah, I'm here to speak to item 15 as well. I understand why this was added to the agenda. I think we all do. I just don't think that the research proves out making a spend like this. The University of Toronto, as well as a 60-year study by the Washington Post, all shows that adding more police spending does not decrease crime rates in cities across this nation as well as Canada. So I don't know, just I guess here to say that I don't think this is the right direction if our goal is to decrease crime in the city. Thanks.
Thank you for your input. Is there anyone else here to speak to any of those items of old or new business? Again, those are items 11 through 15. All right, seeing none, we're going to move to discussion, and we'll begin with item 7. Commissioner Link, you asked that this be brought off for discussion.
Yeah, just because I wanted to thank staff for all the hard work they put into this over the years. Chase Street was kind of, I kind of championed safety improvements for Chase Street when I first got on the commission over 9 years ago, I guess. And I want to thank everyone for their patience and their hard work, and we're finally seeing some real improvements. We did get some significant improvements just with the restriping. It has improved tremendously, but it's, you know, with 2 exits off the loop, And a lot of high-speed traffic and truck traffic, and it's entering a neighborhood, and we're seeing a lot of development, including residential development on the other end of it. It's high time that we got these real safety improvement with some roundabout, and I'm grateful that GDOT is stepping up to enable it. And I'm really looking forward to that mixed use, that shared use path that will allow some safe bike access down the corridor. So I'm grateful, and I just want to move to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Link, and I have a second from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright, any follow-up?
Ready to vote?
All right, any further remarks from the body? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 11, and you have with you the revised agenda report, and as described at the agenda-setting meeting, this does not include the additional funds, simply the reallocation of some existing funds. So I'd entertain a motion for approval. All right.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fisher and a second Commissioner Thornton for approval. Commissioner Fisher, any remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank the staff for working close with the Boys and Girls Club to get this going. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing any type of data as they move forward, especially with the 4 new community centers that are open, and looking for some good things over the next 3 to 6 months. So, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner
I
Thornton?
have no comment.
Commissioner Houle?
Yeah, I just want to confirm with staff that I'm reading correctly from the information we got. Even though these adjustments are being made to the contract, the performance outcomes are the same. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I do want to thank the Boys and Girls Club for their ongoing work. I had the opportunity to visit with a lot of the young people who were involved in the Nellie B facility at Herd Park very recently, and they were very excited about the work that they were able to do there. So there is a motion on the floor from Commissioner Fisher and a second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, item 12 is approval of the ARPA Salvation Army contract. I'd entertain a motion. Commissioner Culpepper?
Abstain from, recuse myself from the vote.
Thank you for that note. I appreciate it.
So moved.
All right. Got a motion from Commissioner Wright and second from Commissioner Taylor. Thank you. Commissioner Wright?
I'm ready to vote.
Commissioner Taylor?
I am too.
Further remarks? Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I applaud the work that the Salvation Army is doing, but this is not addressing an immediate emergency situation. I'm going to be voting no, just like I did in January. I prefer that the Salvation Army should, go through the same process as our other homeless providers. This is 10 more beds, which is great, but the Salvation Army has up to 6 months to start construction on them. And also, in our CDO from January, the contract was was asked to include a plan for sustaining the future funding, and also for ensuring and promoting inclusivity, and those things are not addressed in the contract. So
Thank you,
that's all I
Commissioner.
have to say.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Myers. So I do have a concern about when we approved this earlier this year, that that there will be an additional bed to take care of those during the winter months. Blaine, do we have, as of today or last week, a bed count number updated from January?
Commissioner, as far as available beds in a warming shelter, given certain conditions?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's the same as it was in January, at least for that tier that is the most common one, the first threshold that we meet. And that's pretty much Bigger Vision and Salvation Army, and their available beds will depend on their census at the time. This will expand that a little bit more.
Okay.
Commissioner Thornton?
I had the same concern about the beds, and, I had concern about the whole proposal when I called Manager Williams. But based on our conversation, they have met those emergency needs on those really cold days. Is that not what, I just want to be clear on that.
Yes, and I want to applaud staff for developing tracking tools so we know how those are. And what happened in our January timeframe is Bigger Vision, the smaller of the two, would fill up quick. and then we would send folks over to Salvation Army. And during those, I think we had 2 cold events, we still had capacity at the Salvation Army after the folks who were seeking shelter were served. So at that point, there was some capacity available, and this will increase it slightly.
Then I had Commissioner Link and then Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I share some of the concerns that Commissioner Myers brought up. We had some real specific asks when we initially approved this. And some of us did not vote for it because it went outside the process that we had all voted on a couple months back. I really feel like it's extremely unfair to other providers to allow this this unsolicited proposal to move forward and then to have it not even meet the criteria that we requested when the funding did get approved.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I think we also need to keep in mind when the weather changes and when it gets hot, I think we also still be able to use those facilities for cooling stations too. So I think not only for winter, but also for summer when the weather changes and gets extremely hot. So I'm going to support all those moving forward and vote for this.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you do a roll call on this one, I appreciate it.
Wright,
Yes?
Fisher,
Yes.
Poole,
No.
Myers,
No.
Thornton,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
No.
Link,
No.
Taylor,
Yes.
4 yes, 5 yes, 5 no. 5 yes, 4 no, sorry.
All right, so given that this is not an ordinance, that passes. All right? No, Culpepper abstained. Yep. Item 13 is an intergovernmental agreement to provide grant funding for the North Athens Downtown Development Project. This has long been in the works, and you might remember a 2022 work session where this was provided as one of the series of funding stacks to move North Downtown forward. Entertain a motion regarding this item.
So move.
Got a
I'll
motion-
second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby and second from Commissioner Link. Commissioner Hamby, any follow-up on
No,
this?
just looks like the project's moving forward, and appreciate the work of the Housing Authority in making this happen.
Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I'm really grateful this is moving forward. For anyone who's been critical of this community and our need for affordable housing, this is something that this local government is investing in tremendously. It's pretty unprecedented for a city of our size to put this kind of investment in truly affordable housing. We're adding hundreds and hundreds of beds directly downtown, and we're seeing those buildings rise up from the ground right now.
Commissioner Thornton?
I have nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I saw you.
No,
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I'm going to be supporting this, but I do want to ask Manager Williams something on this. This is, there's a last statement in the facts and issues about the agreement to provide a grant in the amount of $600,000 to the ADDA, and how that'll be using the $600,000 in base rental proceeds for Phase 1, and the ADDA in turn will provide this funding as a loan, and then the authority subsequently repays any of the affordable housing grant to the ADA. Could you explain to me how that works?
Well, and Attorney Drake, I think it was necessary to speak in terms of a grant because of the enabling legislation, but,
Yeah, I can speak to that.
okay, sorry.
Well, we're giving the money as the intergovernmental agreement's a tri-party agreement. We're giving the money as a grant to the Downtown Development Authority. They're in turn, they're going to loan that money to they have made a loan commitment to loan the money to the Athens Housing Authority, and the benefit of that would allow them to get a point on an application with DCA for additional funds. The reason all of the other SPLOST funds that we've given have been done as a grant, so I wanted to keep that consistent. However, being the fact that in 15 years, I think the Downtown Development Authority will get repaid, and if they do, we certainly want to get those funds back, so I've put that in the intergovernmental agreement. Also, I think it's very clear the Downtown Development Authority has the authority to make these type of grants, and their legal counsel agrees, so I wanted to try to keep it consistent.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion, second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 14 is one we're still engaging with the hospital just to finalize. No anticipated major change in language, but we need a motion to hold
Move
that.
to hold until April 2nd.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hool, a second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that one is held. All right, we have item of new business and an executive session upon conclusion. So I need a motion for suspension of rules, given that we have an item of new business.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion for suspension of rules from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Fisher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move forward. I've placed in front of you 4 items for public safety equipment and services enhancement for the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. I want to make clear that these were all items that already were in motion. We, as many local governments do, often line up projects and activities over a multi-year cycle. We benefit from good management here, and so we've got some operating contingency. And so we want to get these projects done earlier than they would have otherwise. We have the opportunity to have vehicles that will access our very heavily used trail network. We know how much Athenians love that opportunity, but we want to make sure that, particularly given there aren't public roadways adjacent to some, that they have the vehicle array that they need to get to those spaces. And then we want to advance the work we've already begun with our real-time crime center and the associated array of cameras throughout the community that are going to be deployed in a data-driven approach. So I would entertain a motion for this approval.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Fisher. All right, Commissioner Wright, any follow-up remarks?
I appreciate you getting this on the agenda, and I look forward to continued support during the budget cycle for public safety.
Yeah, second that, what Commissioner Wright just mentioned, I want to take it, hopefully during our budget cycle, one step further where we can look at also enhancing the pay for our public safety, ACCPD, along with the Sheriff's Department. So hopefully during our budget cycle, we can take a look at that and really trying to make sure we get more people on the street and get folks hired. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
Just a short remark, as a frequent user of our trails, I'm really glad to see those ATMs getting there and getting the police. They're always so helpful in our community, and I want to support them.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I'm grateful to see those ATMs on there too, and I hope that as we talk about our budget in the coming months, we talk about some maybe youth development programming that will get some young people out on those trails in some kind of like junior ranger program, something similar to the cadet program that we passed. I think that that's a good way for getting young people into public safety and for getting eyes on our trails and getting young people into the outdoors, which I feel is a tremendous mental health benefit for people.
Kelly Gertz!
Oh, shit.
You are going to resign. You're not going to fly to this meeting. You are not going to let the people not hear what's going on in this room.
There is a process for public input, and there will be opportunity for public input at the conclusion of our business tonight.
I'm done with the corruption. I know what you're hiding. Where are the bank accounts? Where was the audit?
Did you tell me to get away from me?
Commissioner Davenport.
So I just want to make sure I read this right. So this, once we approve that, this takes effect immediately, or because you just mentioned budget.
We will move forward immediately with these
Okay,
expenditures.
thank you.
That's right. We won't be waiting until July 1st, future budget cycle. All right, it's motion is second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, motion carries. All right, now is that time for public input for any item that was not on tonight's agenda. And so if you'd like to speak to any item that was not on tonight's agenda, given the earlier discussion, you have the same 3-minute opportunity. Good evening.
Greetings. In the course of past human events, we, the people of the United States, pronounced a Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, and we candidly declared to this wayward, tyrant-infested world our intentions to dissolve the political bands which connected us together so as to forge a new nation based upon the divine laws of nature and of nature's God. But today, on March 5th, 2024, we candidly declare to you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilman, and Sheriff of Athens-Clarke County, that we will no longer tolerate your despotic governmental abuse over us any longer. We, the people, do now pronounce you as government abusers and do hereby serve you this legal constructive notice based upon that supreme law and sacred document. Hence, I come to you today in the name of that supreme judge of the universe, King Jesus, whom our founding fathers appealed to rectify their pure and noble intentions, who moved upon our founding fathers by his Spirit to forge a new, never-before-seen nation and to draft forth this supreme law of our land, which acknowledges our God-given right and duty to alter and or abolish any form of government in our midst, especially governments which become destructive to these ends, thus acting in defiant opposition to the will of we the people by evincing an invasion scheme against us, so as to reduce us under an absolute despotism. Because of your crimes, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Sheriff, and City Council, men and women, you have violated your oath of office against the good laws of our state, against the good citizens of Athens, and against our good God and Creator, who has graciously endowed us with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're not happy citizens today, which you, by your unlawful actions against us in our wishes,
Thank you for your
have
time
eagerly
tonight.
placed us
I do
in our
need your name for the
God-given
clerk for the
rights
record, sir.
aforementioned herein.
I do need your name for the clerk for the record.
What's that?
We need your name for the record for the clerk.
My name is James Lee D. Paola.
Thank you, James. We
It's all right
appreciate you
here.
coming tonight. Hope you have a wonderful evening. All right, sir,
All right.
please hand this to the attorney.
Sam Raffle, I represent wheneverysecondcounts.org, 230 Spalding Circle, Athens. I'm a concerned parent of a UGA student and of a UNG Watkinsville student. First, I'd like to thank the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission and Manager's Office for approving critical upgrades to our 911 Communications Center that includes emergency medical dispatching when needed, the critical medical upgrades to our Athens-Clarke County Fire Department and emergency services, and your EMS oversight capabilities. These are substantive changes that, when fully implemented, will save lives. Please continue to support these initiatives. I think you all understand that these are, in fact, critical pieces of the public safety puzzle. I think you also understand that we have a long way to go. Please see our 4 steps we can take right now to improve public safety and save lives in Athens-Clarke County. Second, I'm sure you know me well enough to know that I will continue to tell you the truth and push for full implementation of initiatives and true oversight and accountability. So what if Lakin was viable on that tragic day she was murdered? Our fire department shows up and can't start an IV because they don't have the equipment. That's not their fault, but it's our problem. Our 911 Communications Center has no idea where their paramedics are in the county or if there are even any available. Again, not their fault, but our problem. Our local EMS shows up, maybe delayed because they're having to respond from further away because the ambulance that should have been closest is running a non-emergency transport to Atlanta. When they get there, the ambulance may be without a paramedic, so they can't even interpret the cardiac monitor or give her potentially life-saving drugs. That's a man-made tragedy compounding another tragedy, and it's totally preventable. So tonight, I'm asking you to support the added language to the EMS MOU by changing the term ALS to paramedic wherever it appears in the document. Unchanged, The language allows for advanced EMTs to take the place of paramedics on our 911 ambulances, even though they can only provide limited advanced care. Paramedics can give full advanced life support, and in a time-sensitive, life-threatening emergency, seconds count, minutes matter, and paramedics can be the difference between life and death for your loved one. I'm also asking that key stakeholders in Athens-Clarke County receive critical data on a daily basis that answers the following question. How many ambulances are operating in Athens-Clarke County today? And of those, how many are staffed with paramedics? And I would like to point out that this is not only a problem in Athens-Clarke County, it's a problem in Atlanta, and it's something that needs to be addressed, and it's something that we can do, and I appreciate your help going forward. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Raffle. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Dr. Rich Saplita, picking up where Mr. De Paola just left off. By implementing sanctuary-type rules behind our backs, without our consent, we, the people of Athens-Clarke County, demand that you, Mayor Kelly Gertz, Sheriff John Q. Williams, and all city councilmen and women who voted for or supported sanctuary-like status, procedures, rules, edicts, secret orders in any unlawful way, shape, or form, to willingly and immediately resign from your posts for the following reasons. Number one, for violating your oaths of office and our rights by refusing to uphold, defend, and enforce our good laws of the great state of Georgia, our Georgia Constitution, and our supreme law of the land, the Constitution of the United States of America. Number two, for favoring and placing the well-being of illegal criminal aliens, non-citizen invaders over we the people. Number three, for greatly diminishing our safety and happiness by knowingly placing us in harm's way through lawless, unconscionable practices of releasing violent legal citizens and violent illegal alien non-citizen invaders without bail or for very little bail, thus resulting in the utterly senseless, needless, and avoidable murders, rapes, assaults, thefts, damage to our properties, and for skyrocketing our local and county taxes to provide for these illegal alien invaders daily sustenance. Number four, for increasing and or unlawfully misappropriating our hard-earned tax dollars to pay for the daily need of these illegal criminal alien invaders, rent, food, and more, thus eating out our substance, taking food from our children, thereby fleecing us. Number five, for obvious treason by knowingly facilitating an obvious invasion and subsequent invaders, thus causing our state to remain in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of convolutions within and invasions without, thus causing our city citizens to sustain gross, deadly, violent, senseless, needless, and avoidable injuries, such as murders, rapes, assaults, thefts, and damage to our properties. The choice is yours. We appeal to you as fellow citizens. Humbly remove yourselves willingly and immediately, or suffer the wrath of we the people, following due process and Almighty God. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Good evening.
If you guys don't willingly resign soon, we're going to legally recall you. We're going to get petitions and have them signed. You are soon out of office, all of you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I can talk on any subject?
This is the time.
Okay. I was originally going to talk to agenda item 15, because cited in the many pages of agenda item 15, Laken Riley's murder serves as part of the history leading up to your request for additional monies for surveillance equipment. It's my understanding that if New York City and Athens-Clarke County authorities had fully followed ICE guidelines, Jose Ibarra would have been picked up by ICE. No surveillance needed. And Laken Riley would be here on this earth and not part of the history for that agenda item. We need to get back to policing, good police work. We don't need the surveillance. But another question, why is ACC a refugee resettlement city, a homeless hub for the region, and a sanctuary city? Why are we inviting people into Athens-Clarke County when it is the smallest county by area in Georgia, a mere 121 square miles? Why are we inviting people here when we only have so much land and housing for them and only so much room for businesses to employ them? And this says nothing of the strain it puts on our failing school system, where only 17% of students are proficient in math and 21% efficient in reading. And ACC schools rank 145th out of the 201 in the districts in the state. But most importantly, why are we bringing in this largely impoverished people to Athens-Clarke County when we already have one of the largest percentages of people living in poverty of all the counties in Georgia? Actually, we are virtually tied for largest percentage of poverty for counties with a population of more than 10,000. That's according to both Welfare's and UGA's Georgia data websites. Although we are constantly told that monies are spent to help Athenians and not just immigrants, refugees, and homeless, I will believe it only when I see real results, such as real reduction in poverty, real improvement in our schools, and a better outcome for residents.
Ma'am, I need your name for the record for the clerk.
Linda Krotsky.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Four. I live in Athens, and I'm currently a candidate for Congress in Georgia 10. Laken Riley's family is going through the worst thing that I can possibly imagine anyone ever going through, and their statements have been so gracious and so kind. They are establishing the Laken Riley Foundation, and they're raising money to promote, in their words, homicide awareness and safety for women. I have with me tonight DVSI. This is a domestic violence screening inventory that has been used by the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. This is one that I received several years ago from Officer Jason Kelly. I've seen various versions of this that indicate increased risk factors for someone being murdered by their domestic abuser. And at one time in my life, I would have been positive for 13 of those factors. And so I've spent the last 15 years learning to identify abusers and elucidate their tactics. I've spent the last 10 years publicly advocating for victims, including lobbying at the Capitol with Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, sitting down with Representative Spencer Fry to discuss legislation, sitting in on fatality review meetings with the Athens-Clarke County Police and other local social workers and victim advocates. I've facilitated local survivor groups at Alliance Recovery and Peace Place, and I've learned that violent, abusive men can often be identified prior to committing a homicide, not by their demographic characteristics or their immigration status, but by their behavioral patterns. Recognizing abusive behavior and removing abusers from access to victims is the key to preventing not only homicides of women, but also police violence, mass shootings, and installing pathological abusers in positions of public trust. It's been telling to me over the last couple of weeks that some of the loudest voices who are parachuting in with their own agenda have not only been completely uninvolved in the work of advocating for women's safety prior to this point, but many are abusers of women themselves or close associates thereof. They have unleashed violent rhetoric on our community. There's been violent rhetoric against me, against our mayor, against his children, against immigrants and other people of color, many of whom are victims of domestic violence themselves. And when a victim is undocumented, that status can often be used against her by her abuser to keep her from being able to get help. And so I am rising to commend Laken Riley's family for the work that they are doing. We love you. I am so sorry, and our hearts go out to you. And I also want to commend those locally who are doing the lengthy, difficult, sometimes dangerous work of preventing abuse, of advocating for women's safety, and that includes Project Safe and the Cottage and the ACCPD Special Victims Unit and local social workers and advocates that are heavily engaged in that work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. Good evening. Thanks for coming tonight.
Oh, thank you. My name is Cassie Evans, District 5. I'm coming to you as the chair of the Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board. For those that don't know what that board is, it's also known as PSCOB. We have oversight over ACCPD, Probation Services, Sheriff's Office, and the Corrections Department. And I just want to use this time to say that we are a liaison between those departments and the citizens, where you can provide direct feedback. If you have complaints or compliments regarding those departments, please see us. But I want to bring it to your attention that we currently do not have a budget in place for the board, which makes it very difficult to do what we need to do. And I just ask that in your planning of making Athens a safer place, that you do not forget about Peace Cobb and consider us an underutilized tool that you have. In a sidebar, we have a large Spanish-speaking community here in Athens, but there is a lack of translation services available. We are not able to translate our complaint or compliment form due to that lack of services. So I also ask that you consider that when considering the budget moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. Good evening.
Good evening. Susan Monteverdi. We're here with Safety Athens. When Georgia legislators honored Laken Riley, in their prepared remarks was included a statement from her parents, quoting, "We will try to make you proud." When we honor Laken's memory with the work we do, we will try to make Laken's parents proud. And that's why we're here tonight. Before you is a proposed ordinance to enhance safety and security for all residents, includes initiatives long overdue. We ask for a future vote and put this body on record with or without action. And I'm going to read the ordinance and I'll send it to you via email. An ordinance directing the manager's office to reallocate FY 2024 funding using ARP SLFRF revenue replacement, general fund dollars, and other revenue sources so as to provide initial funding of $5 million for capital and operational expenses for the following 3 initiatives. Initiative 1, training and accreditation of ACCPD law enforcement coordinators for crime-free multi-housing programming. To make this program available to landlords within Athens-Clarke County to include further enhanced CPTED training and accreditation of officers in general. Rural CPTED training applicable for green space applications throughout the county is also to be provided. CPTED assessment for any moderately sized commercial property to be available upon demand. CPTED assessment for new moderately sized and above commercial development to be required. A county CPTED assessment to be conducted on all trails and for all parks within the county. The allocated amount to be determined. The crime-free multi-housing program is designed to reduce crime, drugs, and gangs on apartment properties. This program was successfully developed at the Mesa, Arizona Police Department in 1992. The International Crime-Free Multi-Housing Program has spread to over 2,000 cities in 48 states, 5 Canadian provinces, England, Nigeria, Puerto Rico, and more. The program consists of 3 phases that must be completed under supervision of ACCPD. Property managers can become individually certified after completed training in each phase, and the property becomes certified upon successful completion of all 3 phases. Fully certified properties have reported reductions in police calls for service up to 70% over previous years. The key to the program is phase 3, which is correct implementation and use of the crime-free lease addendum. Benefits to rental properties: improved safety for tenants, landlords, and managers, neighborhood reputation, increased relative property values, and reduction in gang-related activities. Initiative number 2, implementation of a pilot ambassador program similar to the block-by-block proposal given to the University of Georgia Board of Regents, UGA, and various ACC commissioners for specifically the downtown area. Amount to be determined. Increasingly,
Thank you, Susan.
municipalities.
If you leave that with the attorney, he'll distribute it to us.
I'm going to send it via email,
Perfect. Thank you.
and Lynn will do part 2.
Good evening.
Hi, Lynn Gaines with UGA Parents for Safety and Security and Safety Athens, continuing that ordinance. Increasingly, municipalities are utilizing ambassador programming such as block by block to provide a cohesive network of services to include safety patrols, individual escorts, outreach workers, generalized cleaning and courtesy services. Block by Block is in over 150 cities. In fact, Block by Block is contracted with the Business District of Chattanooga, the same city you have looked to for modeling continuance of care operations for homeless services. Zones for services and services within zones are both flexible and built for need. Zones can be designed specifically for crime-ridden areas such as Vine and Gresham Streets in East Atlanta area, East Athens area known as the Block. Our initial proposal included roughly $1 million annually for 2 zones of patrol and outreach ambassadors, one zone for the northern half of the UGA campus and the other zone downtown. A robust downtown pilot could be implemented for under $1 million. Current spending for similar services downtown is $820,000. I'm not sure I have everybody's attention. Here's the current breakdown of these services. $308,000 for litter techs to clean broken glass, feces, and trash from downtown streets, 5 a.m. to 12, 3 staff, solid waste. $65,000 annualized to clean the Portland Loo twice a day, central services. $35,400 for unarmed security guards to patrol the City Hall campus, 1 city block, providing hourly checks and notation of homeless persons on grounds, general fund. $24,000 for Virtue Guard video monitoring, random live monitoring by staff, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., and daytime on weekends through BOS security of the Washington Street and College Avenue parking garage. $258,000 for unarmed security guards to patrol the same parking garage, unarmed security guards through Athens Downtown Development Authority. $130,000 new FY24 for homeless outreach. Small amount paid for by ADDA. Rest is grant dollars and new FY24 general fund ARPA dollars. This totals roughly $820,000 annually. Contracts and scope of services are available upon request. Added to these existing services is a proposal for limited use of part-time courtesy ambassadors downtown. $149,000 is proposed to include funding of an ambassador manager. By allocating resources from disjointed solutions, city government already possesses sufficient funds for the downtown zone to support a program that surpasses goals and effectively addresses all community needs. To further enhance ambassador programming, city government must partner with UGA.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate it. If you just email to the clerk, she can distribute.
I'm sorry?
If you email the clerk, she can distribute to the commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Cindy Furman, and I'm continuing with Safety Athens. The third proposal is immediate implementation of a memorandum of understanding between UGA and the city government concerning the sharing of camera technology on all UGA properties within Athens-Clarke County. This memorandum must include 100% integration of UGA camera technology into the newly formed Real-Time Crime Center. To compare and contrast, Georgia Tech has over 1,700 cameras with RTCC infrastructure for real-time video monitoring capability. AI software for gun detection can be integrated into the Fusus RTC platform. This feature, as well as other available software applications, are important for proactive policing to deter and stop crime before it happens. UGA is increasing its camera presence but does not have similar RTCC capability as Georgia Tech. Athens is a small geographical area, and given how UGA properties are intertwined throughout the county, best practices suggest all future RTCC capability should lie within the new ACCPD RTCC. Any hurdles with UGA public safety must be ironed out at the best interests of residents. I am also here as the co-founder of the UGA for Parents and Safety and Security. We have been here before in front of the mayor, council, city prosecutor, and UGA officials several times. Specifically, in September of 2022, I brought 3 rows of students to present in front of you, and I read this letter to you at that time. I read these words to you. It's kind of eerie to fast forward to where we are now today. I'm going to read the exact words that I said for you in front of at that time. Mayor and council. So I'll read it for the second time. Mayor and council, I come today to plead to you to hear our concerns and ask you to put programs into place that help the safety and quality of life for the entire Athens community. With the ever-present criminal activity encountered in Athens, it becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish between the many avenues of crime that Athens has allowed to foster. Whether it is a person high on drugs, encroaching your personal space, screaming obscenities, or carrying machetes, a scary night of gang-related gunfire, a series of break-ins, including gunfire, a frightening police police barricade with the police overhead, a student accosted in a parking garage or raped in the bushes, or a dead body in your backyard, homeless smoking crack on your porch where police responses to suggest you buy a gun, human feces spread on sidewalks, public indecency, a sex trafficker caught and set free, a missing student, several hit-and-run students that were left to die, and now I'm going to add to it, in the life of Miss Lakin Riley, this has become a part of our kids' almost predictable daily lives. Sadly, I say within 1 year, this was back 2 years ago when I said this, my own child or someone I know has encountered each and every one of these crimes mentioned, and some more than once. There are so many with similar stories. These types of activities have become an acceptable and expected part of living in Athens. Why are you disregarding the everyday citizens, leaving them feeling vulnerable and unsafe? Why are you allowing Athens to be filled with trash covering the beautiful streets? Why are you allowing our young adults that are fresh out of the nest to live in fear at every turn? Where is your accountability to them? Why is there a never-ending series
Cindy.
of
I
repeat
appreciate you
crimes?
joining us tonight. Thank you very much. We need to
Okay.
move on to the other speakers.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. My name is Tim Denson, 483 Quailwood Drive. I think we're all here for some of the same reasons tonight. We love this community. We want Athens to be safe. We mourn the passing of Lakin, and we never want to see that happen again. Some of the ideas I just heard right there, the block-by-block proposal. It sounds honestly a lot like a mutual aid-style public safety initiative that I think probably the most leftist individuals in Athens would probably be on board with. So I think there's ways for us to be able to move forward. I love this community with my whole being. This community has made my life so much better, my family's life so much better. I've walked the trails around Lake Herrick with my daughter. I've worked with women who have been sheltered by the Cottage and Project Safe. I've sat on the stoops of homes of undocumented families who have lived in Athens for years, honestly, longer than I have. We all want Athens to be safe, and I applaud the attempt at analyzing what happened to Lakin to try to figure out how the best ways to do that. One major way, though, I do disagree. Blaming migrants and forcing them to live in the shadows will not make Athens safer. What was written in the resolution, some of it wasn't very intentional, and some of it was recommendations from public safety experts that said that if we have migrants who do feel welcome coming to law enforcement, it's more likely that they will be able to give tips, be able to give testimony, be able to cooperate with law enforcement when things happen in their community. Why are innocent undocumented Athenians being targeted for Lakin's death? I understand that the person accused is said to be undocumented, and what he did, if found guilty, is absolutely disgusting. But there's absolutely, it's illogical to blame every single person who might be undocumented for that. It is being assumed that migrants are more violent and dangerous than those who have already lived here. Study after study has shown that this is absolutely untrue, factually untrue. Undocumented residents are less likely to commit crime. What is true, though, is that more than 1 in 4 college-age women report being assaulted during their college career. That means of the current UGA population, 4,350 women are sexually assaulted. Most often by someone they know, almost always by men, and almost always by someone with documentation. Can we as a community focus on this? Xenophobia does not make us more safe. Hate does not make us more safe. Misogyny does not make us more safe. But unity, us working together across our differences, coming together, will make us more safe. Thank y'all. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing. I know this is a very tough time for all of us, and especially y'all too. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening, sir. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, to my very own Commissioner, Ms. Taylor. I'm Athena Eisenman. I live at 251 Seagraves Drive, Athens, Georgia. And I'm here tonight because, Mr. Mayor, I was visibly shaken by Lakin Riley's murder, but more than that, by the concept of Athens, Georgia, being a sanctuary city. I moved from Colorado over 9 years ago. I'm used to a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. And I chose Georgia because they didn't have that here. And I was sitting, and I saw a group of citizenry come to discuss it with you about make Athens safe again. And you said that we didn't have sanctuary cities, and about 20 minutes later on the same television station, it showed you embracing the concept of sanctuary cities. So in reflection for what I've seen you say and what I've seen you do, and in making Athens safe again, my husband and I presented a resolution earlier today. I'd like to read it to you. Whereas the state of Georgia outlined sanctuary cities in 2009, and whereas the nefarious practice of the policies of a sanctuary city does not require an official, legal, procedural, or statutory definition, and whereas sanctuary city status exists when federal officials are not notified of the detention of an illegal immigrant accused of other crimes, and whereas it is a violation of federal law not to share immigrant information with authorized federal officials, and whereas the death of Laken Riley was a direct result of the conscious decision not to comply with the Immigration Customs Enforcement 48-hour detainer. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor of the city of Athens, Georgia, Kelly Gertz, and cooperating Athens City and Clarke County public officials be sanctioned and censored for engaging in a sanctuary city in policies and practices that needlessly led to this fatality. Be it further resolved that the people of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, call for Kelly Gertz to tender his immediate resignation from the office of mayor of the city of Athens, Georgia. Signed, Alan Athena Eisenman. And sir, I feel strongly about this because I don't understand why one moment you say you're following the state legislative law and the next moment you're embracing something totally different. I thank all of you for listening to me, and I will email a copy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Eisenman. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Thanks for coming tonight.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Mayor. I didn't know everyone was going to start clapping for me when I walked up. So, anyway, my name is Michael Smith. I live on Cavalier Road here in Athens, and I'm here to talk about why everyone is here tonight. Okay, just as a couple quick asides. I think we need to do better on community-oriented safety plans for events. It's going to be a long 9 months here and across the country, and we shouldn't be communicating with one group with priority over another group about safety plans. I'm mainly here tonight to talk about why we're here. So I do have a little experience with working with undocumented workers. I've worked alongside hundreds of undocumented workers in my life. I collaborated with the executive director. Everybody was equal of a place called the Community Malibu Labor Exchange in California, founded by a close friend and co-organizer of Cesar Chavez. I've worked with undocumented workers on very dangerous jobs. I've walked back and forth to jobs 2 to 3 miles. I've shared food with them when everybody was hungry and everyone split it up. Not one time did I have one person come out and protest on being there. Not one time. Why we're here is House Bill 1105. I'm not going to talk much about this bill, but I will give you the name of it. It's the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act. That's why we're here tonight. It's going to give state government unprecedented control over not only undocumented workers, but everyone. It's going to allow citizens to make reports on people they believe are undocumented migrants, and then the police pick them up and take them away. If counties do not comply, they could lose their funding and their charter revocation. Every word we hear on Fox News, every word that we hear in the community that splits and divides us is about this bill. And it's not only to get even with Clarke County or anything like that. It's going to be the #1 issue in the Georgia Senate race and the #1 issue in the U.S.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you.
I didn't know I was over, but it's House
Thank
Bill
you.
1105.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Good evening.
Good evening. Familiar face here, but Lois, District 1 again, and here to talk about myself once again. Because, you know, when I first moved to Athens, it was supposed to be temporary. But this was the first place that I've ever felt safe. I felt like I could breathe. And before this, I had lived in DC, I had worked in New York, and I had always been on go, always felt like you've got to keep your head down, not look at your neighbors. And Athens is the first place where I actually got to know the people that I live around, the first place I've ever felt safe. New Year's Eve, I actually spent that evening on the dock across from where the young girl was killed. And so I've lost a piece of my safety with her passing, but I don't want my town to go down with her. I felt safe in Athens in large part because of the 2019 resolution. And we've been on opposite sides of some issues, but I do thank you for standing by that resolution. And I ask this commission to continue moving Athens forward. I know that the safety that I felt here is not always what's been true of Athens. February 16th, 1967, a black man was taken from the court in Athens. A white mob was able to take this man completely unimpeded, suspected of the murder of a young white girl, and they were able to, for 2 hours and 6 miles, drag this man with no police intervention, no neighbor intervention, and eventually burn this man alive. And we hear the remnants of that rhetoric in the logic, the discussions that people are having outside and in this chamber. And it should remind all of us that those people who killed this man from Athens went on to raise children. They were never punished. And those children would be about the age of many of the speakers here. And so that was our past. That was who Athens was. The 2019 resolution is who Athens is now. And I encourage you to sign our ceasefire resolution, which also affirms the safety of Arab, Palestinian, and Jewish members of our community and their right to be here as a part of moving Athens forward. I have already lost so much because of this, and I don't want to lose my town as well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening. Anyone else here to speak to any item not of old or new business? Good evening.
Good evening, you all. How y'all doing? I know that the fire's on. You know, we're definitely in a time where emotions are definitely high, and I'm just going to kind of read what I read outside because we know that murder in our city is not anything new. Last year, we've seen countless of young men dying to gun and gang violence. We just had a gentleman whose wife works at Clarke Central, went to mentor a young man and was killed within the home. We had a 5-year-old girl by the name of Nevaeh leaving a dance recital, and she was shot in the eye. So we know that the violence and the murders in our city are something that's a problem, and it's an issue that we need to address. and my heart goes out for Lakeland and her family. But it seems like that when this particular thing occurred, it was such an outrage. And I heard Fox News say that Athens was a safe haven. And when I heard them say that, I thought about for who? Who is it a safe haven for? And just as Lakeland lost her life, it should be just as much an outrage as when anybody else in our city loses their life, right? We should have the same response. Within a day, $7.8 million for the safety. Within a day, bills were being wrote. Within a day, all of these changes began to occur, and my heart goes out. But we have to do that for all people. It has to go across the border when we hear anybody losing their life, because all lives matter, right? And so I think that is very important. But one thing that I really want to note is that even as we're coming to this place, is that I looked at Lakeland's mother's post. And I said, in the time that this lady could be talking about immigration, she could be talking about the border, she could be asking for justice for her daughter, she could be debating whether this is sanctuary city or not, she uses her first time on her platform to talk about Jesus Christ. She used her platform to point people back to God, back to her faith, back to her hope, and that's really what we're going to need. I mean, no matter how much money we put, how many policies we put in place, we're going to have to turn our heart back to God. And the same Bible that you put your hand on to swear into office, we're going to have to turn back to that, because we're going to continue to see things, because it's a heart issue. It's not a skin issue, it's a sin issue. And God is calling for us to come back into a place of repentance. And so I think that it's time for us to really cry out concerning these things. I think policies need to be changed. I think that we need to be able to look at how we're doing things all across the border. And I want to leave with this. Martin Luther King said this. He said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And the Bible says that if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, would seek my face, would turn from their wicked ways, he said, I will hear from heaven and I will heal the land. If we truly want healing in our land, we must turn back to God.
Thank you. I need your name for the clerk for the record.
Asia Thomas.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Anyone else here to speak to any item not on tonight's agenda? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sydney Waters. I live at 6 South Stratford Drive in Athens. I've lived in Athens 46 years, so I feel like an old timer. And it's gotten to where when I enter a room and I look around, I realize I must be the oldest person in the room. You know, there's an old saying, if it looks like a duck, if it sounds like a duck, and it walks like a duck, it must be a duck. This is the perception Clarke County and Athens, Georgia has right now. I realize the referendum of 2019 does not say Athens is a sanctuary city, but we act like a sanctuary city. When you look up who has the highest homeless in the state of Georgia, Athens, Georgia is number 1. Why is that? Because of this resolution welcoming all to Clarke County, saying, come, we will take care of you. The illegal immigration, the illegal alien, is a whole nother ball of wax. People have been asking me, do you think there's illegal aliens in Athens? And I've told them, more than likely, well, now the whole city knows that. And a lot of people are truly taken aback by this. On the Statue of Liberty, it says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That was written to all the legal immigrants flowing in to New York City that are coming here to find a better life. They came in, they created jobs themselves, they got jobs, they worked hard to try to make a better life than they had had in Europe and other countries. What we have now is a group of people, a large group of people, who do not come for a hand up, they come for a handout. There's a lot of difference there. You ask, well, what can we do? Well, number one, as Kelly Gertz said on Tim Bryant Monday morning, we're about to fill the other 30 positions that are open in our police department. I hope that comes true. We could even add more police officers to it, because we know Athens is a city of need. When I moved here, we used to come downtown and you would see an officer on the street. You know,
Thank you, Ms. Waters. I appreciate it tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
I think all y'all know who I am, right? Charles Hardy, 15 Harold Drive. Mr. Gertz, I'm gonna pretty much address you since you're the mayor, right? This is called the classic city. The classic city of Athens. I'm quite sure all you guys ran on a platform to make Athens safe, right? To make Athens better. But if you look at the situation now that we face in Athens, Georgia, just walk outside and you can see the whole city is divided. It's divided into two pieces. And that's not coming together to make Athens better. If we're gonna put Athens together, we need to do it as a whole. If it means removing some commissioners and bringing in some new ones, removing the mayor and bringing in a new one. We got people losing their homes. We got people laying on the sidewalk. We got people that's hungry. And we got people that losing their life. And it shouldn't have to get to the point where somebody died for us to open our eyes and see that this city needs help. This city have been badly mismanaged. Badly. And it's time to get it back on track. I hate this lady had to lose her life for us to come to this point to see that we got to get this city back. We got to get it back together. And that means bringing in new commissioners or bringing in a new mayor, we got to do it. Because it hurt me to my heart to see two sides of a sidewalk outside when all of us supposed to be fighting for one cause. We got one God. So why are we fighting for so many different issues when we know what the problem is? We all know what the problem is. This city is divided. And we got to bring it back together. So if you ain't a part of that plan, then you don't need to be a part of this. Because I'm quite sure these taxpayers, they want to see their money being put to use. And right now, they don't see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening.
Hello. I'm Stacey Webb. I'm here again. This is Aaron Bushnell. Aaron was an active U.S. Forest serviceman. He was 25 years old, my age. On February 25th of this year, Aaron self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy. His last words were "Free Palestine," screamed until he could not physically speak anymore. A friend described Aaron as the kindest, gentlest, silliest little kid who was constantly striving for liberation for all with a smile on his face. He found out through his work with DevOps that the U.S. military was directly with manpower assisting Israel in the persecution of their genocide in Gaza, and he did what he felt would push us towards fighting against that genocide. His death was a highly conscious political protest. His legacy will be one of courage and self-sacrifice. I hope this makes you think, Mayor Gertz, about what your legacy will be in the coming years. While Aaron was planning a desperate, radical act of compassion that will leave his name carved into history forever, you were on Instagram and Twitter complaining about how you get blamed for every problem and how you are so persecuted by your constituents just because we would like you to put it down in writing that Athens thinks genocide and apartheid are bad. We've been coming into these meetings with the understanding that perhaps you know what we're talking about when we discuss the genocide in Gaza, but the callous responses we're getting have made us realize that perhaps you don't understand what our military aid being sent to Israel actually does to human beings on the ground. This genocide is the most recorded in history. We are seeing in real time on our phones and in news articles what the effects of this aggression has been on Palestinians. Children are starving to death while the Israeli military systematically refuses to allow aid into Gaza. Doctors Without Borders has reported that it is common for children in Gaza as young as 6 to tell medical aid workers that they want to die or that they wish they had died with their families. It would take over 177 school buses to hold all of the children who have died in Gaza. Imagine if we had 480 Sandy Hooks in 5 months. That's the level of death and destruction that civilians in Gaza are dealing with every day. And I don't need to remind you that we have Palestinian neighbors here in Athens who are helplessly watching this destruction take place upon their families and loved ones while their governments, local and federal, refuse to voice any sort of support for them. They are watching their family members be killed for the crime of being Palestinian, and the government that represents them has shown amply that they do not care. It is irrefutable that Israel is committing these atrocities against the Palestinian people. They admitted themselves, they're proud of it. The Israeli Minister of Social Equity, May Golan, said on camera, "I am personally proud of the ruins of Gaza and that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did." This is not what the Jews did. This is what the Israelis did with our money. These are only a small fraction of the murdered. Should I point them all out and tell their stories one by one? Should I, maybe it'll make somebody care? Should I tell you about Yusuf, who is 20 years old, whose dreams of being a photographer were destroyed when an Israeli airstrike hit his home and killed him?
Thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate it. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dellar Weldon. I'm a student at UGA and a resident of Athens District 4. We're tied up in this as much as any U.S. city. The U.S. sent $3.8 billion in aid to Israel in 2023. Athens contributed a likely estimate of $1.8 million in federal taxes to that sum, unwillingly. The company that builds the bulldozers destroying Palestinian homes and running over Palestinian bodies is the 6th largest employer in Athens. Senator Ossoff is one of the largest beneficiaries of Google, who claims the Israeli military's Nimbus project. We do not have to prove to you that Athens and Georgia are materially connected to Israel's genocide in Gaza. Even if it wasn't, the outright refusal of our federal government to condemn Israeli war crimes, while 70% of our population wants a ceasefire, should be more than enough for you to say something, if not act. How is it that Athens is the heart of the South, or a democratic stronghold, or a political flashpoint when it serves you or the media, but when we want our city to speak out against the most recorded genocide in human history, we're misdirecting our anger or overestimating our city's importance on the national stage? We know Mayor Gertz is not pressing the button to drop bombs on Gaza, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth it to make a statement as a city. A Facebook post credited to Bushnell was written by him before his death. He said, "Many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery? What would I do if I was alive during the Jim Crow South? Apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing genocide?" And the answer is, it's what you're doing. It is what you are doing right now. And so we ask you, what will you do knowing that your country is committing a genocide? What will you do knowing that our government accepts young men being sent to die for our political interests, but condemns them if they die in self-determined protest against a genocide that has killed well over 30,000 people at this point? What will you do to help, no matter how small, end the mass suffering caused by the Israeli military, funded by billions of our federal tax dollars? What will you do in the face of a racist onslaught that is threatening our immigrant neighbors and Muslim and Arab neighbors here in Athens? Genocide is a local issue everywhere, and we don't want people representing us who are not extremely comfortable condemning racism and government-funded violence wherever they may be happening. Neither hate nor negligence have a place in our city's political landscape. If you can't stand against genocide, what do you stand for? Your silence is deafening, and truly, it is disgusting and appalling to me. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you for coming to LR. Good evening, Dylan.
Good evening, Dylan Woolsey, 395 River Road. As mentioned by one of the other speakers tonight, that the recent murder in the headlines is not the only murder here in Athens. Last year and previous years, there's been multiple homicides, and I just as the coming year. As the coming years, as we address violence, as we address crime, as we want to approach it thoughtfully and respectfully and with as much knowledge as possible, I just want to, list from, it's my personal research of before coming to this meeting of potential ways from a city level that we can, that have been shown from other cities to reduce crime on a city level and a county level as well. So I'm just gonna list them. So University of Chicago found that streetlights were found to reduce crimes, including robbery, murder, and aggravated assault. Louisiana State saw that traffic fighting street design also does the same thing. The University of Minnesota study found that higher rates of air pollution are linked to higher rates of violent crime. Drexel University study saw that climate cooling technology has a effective rate of reducing violence because of the link between heat and violent crime. Other studies about the cities of Baltimore and Youngstown also found that relatedly maintaining green space also reduces many types of violent crime. The Niskanen Center also saw that lead remediation has been also found to reduce violent crime as well. University of North Carolina has found that increasing access to transit also lowers crime rates. And just to finish it off, University of California, Irvine, and Stanford and Cornell all have multiple studies showing that access to workforce housing in those areas that they are developed also have very strong decreases in violent crime around those areas. So as we are going forward in addressing violent crime, addressing crime in general, in budgeting and over the next, I guess, process of that when we always are talking about crime and how to reduce it. I just hope the commission keeps these studies in mind when they're planning on how to reduce crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bob White. I live at 195 O'Farrell Street. I'm not a political advocate or not involved politically, but obviously with the events that have happened recently, it made me pause and think a lot and brought me here. We teach our children as they're growing up, when you make decisions, you have to live with those consequences of those decisions. And in 2019, you, Mr. Mayor, and some of the city councilmen made a decision to welcome people to Athens, regardless of where they stood as far as immigration was concerned. And that decision now has consequences that have come with that. One of the things that's frustrating about it as a taxpayer here for several years within this community is that I feel like there is not communication with the taxpayers to get a complete representation of what the feeling are as far as the taxpayers are concerned. It seems like there's a very small group who are represented, and things are done without consulting with the actual taxpayers themselves, the people who voted you into office. I've been here for 27, 28 years. I've never had a commissioner discuss with me as to what their plans were as far as what the commission was going to do. But yet things get paid or spent for this or that, and we just have to accept it without any like I said, any communication with the taxpayers themselves. It just seems like you walk in here, you decide this is what you want to do, you voted in, and it is what it is. So I just would ask that it be better as far as communication is concerned, for one thing. And I would say that, again, just keep in mind that, you are representative of the taxpayers of this community. And there are a broad spectrum of political ideals all across this. Athens is a great community, but it just needs to have a voice, be heard of all citizens within this community, and be respectful of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. White. Good evening.
Hey, how are you? Probably don't need to introduce myself. Laurie Camp. I do not want to say my address because this is being publicized. You can find it, or I'll give it to you privately. I just want to ask y'all a few things. You may want to ask, why am I angry? Why have I gone on national television now 5 times? And the reason that I'm angry are because of these things. Why did you use hateful words to renounce hate in your resolution? Why did you call half your citizens white nationalists, xenophobes? Why did you use those words? I'm not hateful just because I want everybody in this town to follow the same laws that I'm required to follow. That's why I'm angry, is you use hateful words to describe your citizens just because we want our citizens to be safe. That's not the good thing to do there. I am a very strong Christian. I don't spew hate. And why am I hateful for wanting others to follow the law? Why did you not ask your citizens their opinion before you wrote that resolution? Why did you put the feelings of illegal immigrants over the safety of your citizens? Why didn't you ask us? If you had asked us, what is your opinion of doing this? I was a teacher for 28 years in Clarke County. I had undocumented students. I loved my students. I loved my students of color. But I'm angry because you didn't ask me. You didn't ask your citizens, do you want us to publicly say this? Do you want us to welcome all of these people in here? You didn't ask me. But instead, what you did is use hateful words to describe me, just because I want my city to be safe, and I want everybody to follow the laws. And my last question, Athens has the third highest crime rate in the state of Georgia. We're the smallest county with the third highest crime rate. I'm not about hate. I just want that to be over. I want those numbers to come down. And my last question, what are you going to do about it?
Thank you, Ms. Camp. Good evening.
Hi, my name is John Alvarez. I'm a District 7 resident. I'm just going to hold this up, Free Palestine as well. That was what a xenophobe and racist sounds like. Quote, I'm angry that you didn't ask me before declaring that racism is bad, is basically what she just said. Newsflash, if you side with white Christian extremists who hate immigrants, you are a hateful person. I've been a resident of Athens since 2020. Many people that are here today don't live in Athens. They saw Fox News fear-mongering and decided that they needed to drive here and use the tragic death of Laken Riley. Can you hear me? Of Laken Riley as an excuse to be racist. Similarly, our elected officials are showing their true colors once again by weaponizing this tragedy to push for increased policing, as evidenced by the new Georgia bill that allows cops to arrest anyone that they think is a migrant. A recent study by Stanford looking at data from the last 140 years found that the likelihood of an immigrant being incarcerated is 60% lower than of people born in the United States. Undocumented immigrants commit even less crime. It's illogical to think that someone who is terrified of ICE even knowing that they're in the country would go out and risk deportation by doing a crime. The vast majority of mass shootings and hate crimes are committed by straight, white, evangelical Christian men who were born in the United States. Yet it's only when one random immigrant decides to do something evil that a bunch of Athenians suddenly decide to get off their couches screaming racist nonsense, and Athens-Clarke County and UGA decide it's okay to increase spending towards public safety. We've been calling for increased funding for public safety initiatives for years to no avail. While I applaud the contribution toward things that actually keep us safe, like better lighting, seeing a 20% increase in police pay makes me physically ill. Just a few years ago, these same officers were in riot gear, spraying tear gas at people dancing in peaceful protests downtown, despite posing zero risk to public safety. The mayor and commission never acknowledged it, but the tear gas wafted down Broad and into Parkview homes. At 11 p.m. at night, young kids came out asking why their eyes suddenly started burning while laying in bed trying to sleep. Instead of helping these kids recover, as well as helping with the long-term effects that pregnant women experience from tear gas, Athens-Clarke County would rather increase pay and funding for the same militarized force that routinely hurts Athenians, instead of directing that $7 million to things that actually keep the public safe, like access to affordable housing, healthcare, and a job that pays a living wage. We keep us safe. While protesters during the summer of 2020 were masked and taking proper precautions to prevent the spread of COVID, nearly every single officer that was present remained unmasked, which poses significant risk to anyone that came into close proximity with them. The media reactions surrounding the unfortunate death of Laken Riley shows the two sides of life in America clearly. Our most vulnerable, like the many unhoused people that you see literally sleeping on the bench outside the courthouse, disappear and are murdered by people born in the United States all the time. But there's usually no response or coverage by even local news outlets because society deems these lives disposable. Athenians have been telling the commission that they feel unsafe due to the rising threat of white nationalist violence for months now, with no response. Giving a 20% increase to the same police that hurt Athenians when crime has been going down for years, according to the FBI, is ridiculous. We don't need more policing. We need more public support structures to deal with the root cause of crime, not just the symptoms. Please do not listen to racists. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, I appreciate everybody coming this evening. Thank you very much for your time with us. Appreciate everybody being as willing to share your thoughts. I think it's evident that everybody here behind the rail and everybody in this government is mourning with those who've mourned so many losses in this community, including in recent weeks, and we want you to know our hearts are with you. Manager Williams, any reports this evening?
Yes, sir. If you could, would you come back to me?
I will. Mr. Attorney?
No report.
Mr. Auditor?
No report. Sorry, I just needed to let you know that the Public Information Office has been successful again on getting an internship grant from the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, and just letting you know about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, we'll begin with Commissioner Davenport, move to Commissioner Hamby, and Commissioner Hamby, if when we get to you, you'll go ahead and make a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of discussion with the attorney of threatened or possible litigation, and then adjournment upon conclusion of that. So, Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you. Excuse me, sorry about that. I'm getting over a cold. Can you skip me? Yeah, get some water.
Yeah, I have a few things to say. I wrote them down because I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything out. First of all, I want to send all my peace and strength to all who knew and loved Laken Riley. This tragedy has hit me particularly close. I know those trails where she met her terrible end. My husband and I were married on a hillside overlooking Lake Herrick 16 years ago. It was a location that was chosen precisely because it was so secluded and sparsely visited. We spent many afternoons training our dog in that quiet, lonely forest, and last year we scattered her ashes from the footbridge. My husband is a runner and has many times taken the same route through that parking lot behind the apartments to access the trails where Laken entered the woods on her last run. A place that holds so many happy memories for me is now forever tainted by violence, and I am as disgusted by the crime as I am by the hysterical glee with which so many have seized upon this tragedy to promote division, bigotry, and hate. This tragedy offers yet another reminder that monsters are real, and they come in all shapes and sizes. With terrifying regularity, they come in the form of white men with weapons of war fueled by mental illness, bigotry, and right-wing conspiracy theory who slaughter classrooms full of school children, congregants in churches, temples, and mosques, hapless shoppers, and revelers at concerts, nightclubs, festivals, and parade routes. Mass murders that have become so routine they are met with only thoughts and prayers from the cowardly Republican legislators, governors, and judges who enable unfettered access to such weapons of war. And every day, the monsters come in the form of young men behind the wheels of big trucks and fast cars who ignore the rules of the road, endangering the public with impunity, often walking away from fatal crashes with barely a slap on the wrist. The monsters also come in the form of terrorists and world leaders who occupy, invade, attack, bomb, and lay siege to cities full of innocents, slaughtering women and children by the tens of thousands. This is not the first time murder has brought tragedy to the UGA community. 15 years ago, the monster was a UGA professor who terrorized a neighborhood theater group and murdered his ex-wife and a beloved community leader. 3 years ago, it was a UGA wide receiver who shot an Oconee County Quick Trip clerk in cold blood and went on to kill again 1,000 miles away with the very same weapon. The identity of the monsters who killed UGA students Jennifer Stone over 30 years ago and Tara Baker over 20 years ago in their own homes remains unknown. The deaths of these young women harshly remind us that as women, we are never safe from monsters. Not on a solo jog through the woods, nor a late night walk across a parking lot, not in the back room of a downtown bar, not even behind the closed doors of our own homes, nor the dressing room of a luxury Manhattan department store. We live in a violent patriarchal society in which even our own bodies are not our own. A society in which desperate mothers are sent home from emergency rooms to suffer unassisted miscarriages as they bleed out on their bathroom floors, and raped little girls are forced to give birth to their stepdaddy's babies. In which at least 2 of our Supreme Court justices have been credibly accused of sexual assault, and at least 3 were appointed by a traitorous, insurrectionist, bigoted, lying, cheating, fraudulent, philandering rapist. I call upon those who are so overcome with outrage over Laken Riley's death to channel that outrage towards protecting the living. I'm very grateful that UGA is stepping up to bring greater safety to many of the often deserted areas of our campus. I have often felt unsafe on campus in my own office in a deserted building during a break. In addition to the measures that called upon tonight, we must demand that our state legislators to ban assault rifles, outlaw guns in public places, including on campus, mandate weapons registration and training, fund access to women's full reproductive care, and strengthen programs and laws to prevent domestic violence, identify abusers, and convict rapists.
Commissioner Davenport, did you want me to come back to you?
Yes, thank you for the water. So I'm gonna change the little tone a little bit. First of all, that was the fastest meeting we've ever had, and I've been here for 5 years, so thank y'all for that. I read some disturbing emails yesterday about Josh Edwards moving on. I want to give him praise to his new position, and I bless him and his family for wherever the road that they're traveling. I will miss him. I will never forget the day when we had a meeting, and this is when Josh Edwards earned his gold star from me. Well, all staff always get a gold star from me, but we was in a meeting and someone was in, some community members were insulting the now police chief, and Josh Edwards got stern. So if you ever talk to him about it, he'll remind you. But like, Josh Edwards scared me that night. I was like, that was a different type of Josh but I will always, always respect him. Happy Women's History Month to all the women. Thank y'all for birthing us, loving us, cleaning us, changing us, raising us, and all that fun stuff. And to the 5 lovely women that I work with, thank y'all for your kindness and y'all decency. And to the crux of the meeting, I don't have anything prepared, but as a Christian myself, as a person who's born and raised here, I will always love Athens, and I will always love all the people in Athens. Those who are immigrant, migrant, black, white, poor, and I'll try to do my best to help those who are in need. One callous, stupid act in our community shouldn't define us as all of how we are, because this is a loving community. But I would be remiss without thanking our police officers, our police department, ACCPD, with the work that they did. It was great that they collaborated together with law enforcement, and I don't think we give them much appreciation for the work and the fast work that they did. But Athens has always been a welcoming city. Way before Kelly Girk stepped foot in City Hall, way before this progressive movement, there are churches in this great town, churches with an ES, still to this day, who've been welcoming undocumented, homeless, people who have been abused, people who have been assaulted, people who are just looking for some sort of help. Churches, big churches, not one, not two, there's multiple churches. Even before I was born, there were churches who were helping people in this community. There's also a lot of nonprofits in this community who help those in need. They do a lot of great work in welcoming people, the homeless people, people who lost jobs, who lost homes. There's also businesses in this community who also help those undocumented and those who are less fortunate. So we can go to a 2019 resolution and say that that's what's bringing these people here, but the reality is that was done way before the 2019 resolution. This has always been a welcoming town, and you cannot change, and it's easy to pick on the government. It's the easy scapegoat that a lot of people want to do, But this is a very loving town. You know, there are a lot of churches on a lot of these streets, and there are a lot of people who are trying to help those in need. And just this one act of callousness should not divide our community, because unfortunately, and this may sting, there will probably be another murder in this town. And I want the same veracity in the news media to come back, and the same people who are rallying to do the same justice for the next person. I pray that does not happen, but the reality is there are just some bad people out there. And, you know, like the sister girl said that Martin Luther King was a quote from Martin Luther King, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. But and I hope those words seep in, but, you know, as much as people want to go back to the 2019 resolution, I mean, the spirit of this town was there before that. And I still, to this day, and to the community, still support that 2019 resolution. And I will defend it to the best of I can, but we did have some issues with the language. I agree with that. You know, if you want to look at the community notes or talk to some of the people who was commissioner back then, but there was a time when that resolution was written that there was some discourse in our community and nationally that we felt the need to have that, to do that resolution. And if anyone in the community really truly think that folks from Venezuela, Honduras, people are literally crossing the border thousands of miles, hundreds of miles in the desert, has Athens on their eyes, Athens as their destination, it's foolish. It is foolish. These folks are escaping atrocities. They are going through the deserts, starving, dying, doing the best that they can because they truly believe what that statue in New York Harbor, what it stands for. They're looking for that type of peace. They're looking for some sort of, you know, not to be oppressed. They're looking for some sort of refuge just to live their lives. And as a Christian, I will, by the grace of God, I will never deny somebody who is honest and decent in this community, who looking for help, for me to deny them that. And for us as a community to literally criticize undocumented individuals over our own murderers is callous, selfish, and ignorant. I stand by the 2019 resolution. I love all people. I hate the fact that this gentleman, I can't even say he's a gentleman if it's allegedly true, did what he did. But now's a time for unity. Now's a time for peace. If you have any solutions that we can improve our community, bring it to us. Let us know. We do listen. I know I do. I reached out to some of my constituents and I got bashed. I was like, okay. But now's the time for us to join together. I love my town. I know my fellow colleagues do too, but let's not use this terrible tragedy for our own political platforms and to get on national TV and do all this crazy stuff, but let's heal each other. Let's put the Band-Aids on with the Neosporin and take the aspirin. Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
I want to thank everyone for coming out and participating tonight in tonight's meeting. For staff, everyone, you guys make our job. Thank y'all. It is very heavy in here, but it I guess ended a lot better than we all expected it to be. So on a lighter note, I will be participating in the Securing Women's Rights Roundtable next Monday. It is hosted by the Athens-Clarke County Democratic DEI Committee. It's being held at the fire station on Prince Avenue, fire station number 2. So everyone watching, come out and celebrate Women's Month with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright.
Yeah, this is really hard. But I wrote this down because I really want to say it. I want to share that I have my own personal version of grief, pain, sorrow, and anger from the person, the place, the time of our community's recent murder. As with previous violent crimes and tragic incidents, I pledge to work to support the Ways and Means to avoid more pain and loss of lives. As we tell ourselves to never forget the loved ones lost and the victims of violence, we can harness motivation to do more, just like tonight's public safety vote. I vow to work earnestly with our mayor, my fellow commissioners, ACC staff management, UGA, our community partners, and our community's public safety teams to support initiatives and continue efforts underway that we can bring improvements and lead us into a direction of healing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Houle. Mr. Culpepper.
Thank you. I'd like to say my thoughts and prayers go out to the family and friends of Lake and Riley and ask for God's strength to guide them through this challenging period. I'd like to express my appreciation to Chief Jeff Clarke and the UGA Police Department, Chief Jerry Salters, and the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, as well as the GBI for their swift action in making an arrest. It is vital for this commission to continue to provide our local law enforcement the tools and resources needed to ensure Athens is a safe community. I also want to clarify that a resolution does not carry the weight of legislation or a mandate or any specific action. Rather, it serves as an expression of the current commission's opinion or perspective at the time it was passed. Regarding the resolution from 2019, the county attorney has explicitly stated that it does not establish a sanctuary policy. Despite this clarification, there is a prevailing perception that Athens is a sanctuary city, and perceptions often shape reality. I will work hard to change that perception by collaborating with local, state, and federal officials. We must focus on the safety and well-being of all Athens residents while adhering to both state and federal laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I came down here tonight with the intent to listen intently and respectfully and with an open heart. I've tried my best to do so, and I'm proud that we live in a city and a country that prides itself on allowing free speech, and appreciate the ideas and concerns shared tonight. And I especially appreciate the respect everyone gave each other. It's been a hard week for Athens. Just 12 days ago, we were in shock at the brutal murder of Lake and Riley, the worst thing possible that happened to a family. The UGA campus and Athens community were traumatized. A place of peace and beauty and nature had been turned into the location of a worst possible nightmare. Within days, the UGA Police Department, Athens-Clarke County Police Department, and the GBI successfully worked together to arrest a suspect. The community is safer now that this individual is in the hands of the justice system. I want to thank all the local and state law enforcement officers for their speedy work. I want to thank UGA President Moorhead and his staff, as well as Mayor Gertz and our ACC staff, for moving forward to address the safety of our community and UGA students. I send my support to all of Laken's friends and fellow students here in Athens, and to our teachers as they try to process the shock and grief after the brutal murder of one so young and full of promise. And as a woman and a lover of the outdoors, I send strength and safety to all the women of Athens who fear violence against themselves, whether out running or cycling, walking to their cars from a night out, or walking home from a study night at the library. And most importantly, as a mother of 2 daughters and a grandmother of 2 granddaughters, I send love and condolences to Laken's mother, father, her siblings, her grandparents, and extended family. You are living my worst nightmare. You have all our prayers.
Commissioner Thornton.
I want to thank everyone who came out this evening. There was so much truth that has been spoken to power from both sides of the aisle on this. I guess I would like to speak to the 2019 resolution. My work prior, earlier in my years, I worked with undocumented immigrants. and help them to navigate in North Carolina and South Carolina, working on farms where they were not treated fairly as cheap labor. I worked with them with my prior work with manufacturers that were shipping them in for cheap labor. So the 2019 resolution, maybe I did not read the fine print or the big print, because I don't think categorizing anybody as white supremacist is right. If I had to redo anything other than that, I know we talked about it, but I think we could have done a better job in our language. And I apologize for me not even looking that far. But my intent was, at that time, to help a group of folk that were struggling. So, saying all of that, I hope that we, as the commission, staff, the mayor, we heard some really good ideas here tonight on things that we could do. We can't bring Lakin back, but we heard some good ideas that we, as this commission, should look at as we move forward. I personally have always felt that 10 people cannot represent you if we don't hear from you. Maybe we have been a little isolated in our conversations. And it's not right for people to come together only when there's a problem or a situation. We should be able to have these conversations. I do think that Lakin's family has taken the high road and has been an example for all of us to follow. I don't see no hate spewing from this, but yet and still I see people who have taken this situation and put their own spin on it. Again, tonight probably was a teachable moment for me because I heard two sides, and both sides were true. That is what I believe speaking truth to power is about. Now that we've heard truth, each one of you should look to this commission and this mayor to see what we're going to do about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to make a motion to adjourn and to enter into executive session for attorney-client privileges, for attorney-client conference on an employee-related matter, personnel-related matter.
Pending or threatened litigation.
Pending or threatened litigation. Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Who's second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Thornton seconded. Thank you, everyone. We need to enter executive session. Hope you have a wonderful evening.